Well, good afternoon and welcome to Let's Talk, where we bring insightful conversations on important issues facing our community. I'm your host, Denise Willard Barnes, and it's a gloomy Friday afternoon, getting ready for some really, I think, some big showers taking place here in the DC area tomorrow on Saturday. But it's springtime. Yes, it's spring, even though we've all had to bring out our puffy coats and hats and all of that with the temperatures dropping as low as they have in the last couple of days. If you've come to Washington, I hope you've had a chance to see the cherry blossoms because they will get blown and rained away this weekend. But we still have some great cherry blossom activities coming up in the city that the whole city is participating in. As a matter of fact, Cherry, I was coming up Martin Luther King Avenue earlier today, and one of the houses on our block is cherry blossom pink. There are flowers and all kinds of things in front of the house. So even over here in the Great Ward 8, folks are celebrating the cherry blossom in spring season. We're going to have a great show today. Today, our broadcast will include a conversation about taxes. It's a segment that's sponsored by Capital Area Asset Builders, and we will have CEO and Executive Director Joseph Lightman Santa Cruz, who remind us that the deadline to file is just around the corner and highlight some important details you need to know about filing your taxes this year if you haven't done so already. We'll also be joined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Assistant Deputy Secretary Solomon Green, who heads the department's Office of Policy Development and Research. And he's going to discuss affordable housing and the steps being taken to address this critical issue. And as we continue to highlight the role of women in leadership during this Women's History Month, we will be speaking to Tiffany Crow, the director of the District of Columbia's Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. And last but not least, of course, we're looking forward to talking to Aisha Bond Esquire, the president and CEO of the Greater Washington Black Chamber of Commerce, who's going to share some information about us, about the work the chamber is doing, what's happening with Black businesses in Washington, and how the two are working together to make sure that this is a great place to work and to do business in the District of Columbia. I hope you've had a chance to pick up a copy of the most recent issue of the Washington Informer. You all know I always like to show our print edition, and you can see, as a matter of fact, a picture on our cover of cherry blossoms, and that our own photographers took, and some young men who were in town with their family to see the cherry blossoms. And there's so much more. We're talking about the Ward 5 story by Caleb Benjamin, where a street name was unveiled in Ivy City, honoring Alexander Crummell. If you don't know who he is, you got to read the Washington Informer. And of course, Sam Collins, who's always focused on the fight for public education, but as it relates to public investments in early childhood. And Hamil Harris does a nice tribute to the life and legacy of the late Dory Ladner, civil rights activist who we lost about a week or so ago. So that's here, what's on the cover, so much more on the inside. Pick up a copy of the Washington Informer. We've got about 500 or so, 600 locations throughout the DMV. But if you're watching us online and you want the digital edition, you can go to WashingtonInformer.com, and we hope that you can take a moment to go through that. And of course, while you're there, we're asking you to also sign up to become a member, or what we call an online subscriber to the Washington Informer. There's no cost, and so we hopefully you will consider doing that, and that way we will send a digital copy to your mailbox once a week. But also, we have so much exciting news that we're posting every single day, and we certainly would like for you to make sure that you receive that. We want you to also share today's broadcast on your social media platforms and follow us on Facebook, IG, X, I guess we're still saying, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Nextdoor, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Wherever you are, we are. And if we're not there, let us know so that we can be where you are to continue to give you the news that you can use. We're going to move. Oh, and lastly, I forgot our YouTube broadcast. Yes, please Subscribe to Washington Informer TV, no spaces, on YouTube. That way, you'll get the weekly broadcast. We air every Friday from noon to 1, but you can follow us there, subscribe. And for those of you all who want to know, how does the Informer do all of this? And we do a lot with our small and mighty staff. You can support us by doing all those things. Follow us, like us, share, subscribe. All of that helps us so that we can continue to provide you with information at no cost, because our subscribers want to know, our advertisers want to know that we have an audience. And so when we give you those numbers, when you subscribe, we can give them those numbers and let them know that we actually have a growing audience here at Let's Talk. I'm looking at the two little bees, on this side behind me. I don't know if you can see them. As a matter of fact, can I grab one? Yeah, because I want you to know on Tuesday, April the 9th, we will be broadcasting this is the old one. This is the 41st annual Spelling Bee, but we'll be broadcasting the 42nd annual Spelling Bee, which will take place it will be aired on the Office of Cable Television. We'll give you some more details on that. And you can see who will be representing the District of Columbia in the Scripps National Spelling Bee in May. But we are so excited. We did hold the Spelling Bee, but I can't tell you who the winner is. And so you will be able to see that Spelling Bee. You don't have to pull out your dictionary and whatever else, because these young folks know how to spell in the District of Columbia, ages through the 3rd through 8th grade students. So watch out for the Spelling Bee. I'll remind you again next week and give you the channels where you can watch it. But that's April the 9th, Tuesday, April the 9th at 10 a.m. So before we begin with our show, here's our weekly news broadcast by Curtis Knowles.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. The Justice Department on Thursday announced a sweeping antitrust lawsuit against Apple, accusing the tech giant of engineering an illegal monopoly in smartphones that boxes out competitors, stifles innovation, and keeps prices artificially high. The lawsuit filed in federal court in New Jersey alleges that Apple has monopoly power in the smartphone market. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco commented saying, quote, Apple has locked its consumers into the iPhone while locking its competitors out of the market, and that it is stalling the advancement of the very market it revolutionized. Apple called the lawsuit, quote, wrong on the facts and the law, and said it will vigorously defend itself. The suit takes aim at how Apple allegedly molds its technology and business relationships to, quote, extract more money from consumers, developers, content creators, artists, publishers, small businesses, and merchants, among others. Nearly 9 years after former Governor Larry Hogan shuttered the old Baltimore City Detention Center, a new centerpiece facility for the city's pretrial jail population is poised to take its place. The Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, which has run the city's jail system for decades, is pushing ahead with ambitious plans for the Baltimore Therapeutic Treatment Center, a sort of hybrid jail, hospital, and mental health and substance use treatment facility for people facing criminal charges. The cost of the $1 billion project is spread across more than 5 years, with an estimated completion date of 2029. The state says it needs the new facility to comply with the 2016 settlement of a decades-old lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of healthcare in Baltimore jails. The lawsuit is ongoing, and the Corrections Department has yet to come into full compliance with any of the 9 provisions of that agreement. After several brush fires flared up around the region Wednesday, dry and windy conditions will continue to bring elevated fire weather conditions through Thursday evening for portions of Maryland and Virginia, according to the National Weather Service. There is one active fire at Shenandoah National Park that has affected more than 450 acres. Wednesday saw fire departments in both Maryland and Virginia reporting several brush fires fueled by gusty winds. Meteorologist Brian Van de Graaff commented saying, quote, humidity is very low, and when the relative humidity is low, any moisture that's in grass, pine needles, or loose brush actually evaporates into the atmosphere, and it quickly becomes more flammable.
Thank you so very much, Curtis. So let me remind you that this segment of Let's Talk is sponsored by the Capital Area Asset Builders, where investing in people and strengthening communities is CAB's priority. Since 1996, CAB has helped more than 2,200 individuals and families achieve their financial dreams of home ownership, higher education, and entrepreneurship. they've got a great story to tell, folks. And I'm so excited to bring on CEO and Executive Director Joseph Lightman Santa Cruz. Joseph, welcome to WIN TV.
Thank you, Denise. Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, yes. So, we're going to talk about taxes, but before we get there, tell us a little bit about CAB and the ways in which, I mentioned a couple of things, but the ways in which CAB assists residents achieve their financial and professional independence, dreams, and success.
Thank you, Denise. I appreciate the opportunity. If I may, before answering that, I first want to say thank you to you personally, and thank you to the amazing work that the Washington Informer does. You really empower community members, and we all know that systemic racism unfortunately continues to be present, not only in the DMV, but throughout the nation. And because of the empowerment that entities like the Washington Informer and CAB and so many other great nonprofit and for-profit entities in this region, we are building steps to provide folks with a better opportunity. And that's really what CAB is all about. For almost 28 years, we have been focusing on providing access to information, resources, tools, and money so that primarily low to moderate income Black, Latinx, and immigrant families can achieve their dreams. We strongly believe and we unapologetically focus on creating wealth within Black, Latinx, and immigrant communities. We all have a shot at achieving our God-given potential.
Well, I love the fact that you say unapologetically and 2,200 people, and that's just the number I pulled off your website. I don't know how current your website is, so it could be more than that by now. But I know personally individuals who have come through programs that CAB offers, who have become homeowners as a result of it. So you're not just, as they say, puffing. You all are actually doing the work. So congratulate you as well.
Thank you.
But we're talking about taxes, right? So what's the news? What do we need to do? I mean, is it April 15th, right around the corner? Time is going by really fast. What do you have to share with taxpayers in DC? What do they need to know?
Let's be honest, right? I mean, talking about taxes gives all of us a headache. It is unfortunately significantly complex. It's overwhelming. But what's great about tax season, Denise, is that when we focus on what is available for primarily low to moderate income Washingtonians, there are two specific areas that we need to be emphasizing and addressing. Unfortunately, let's be real, the tax code at the national level has been set up for the benefit of rich families and large-sized corporations. But there are two key components within the U.S. tax code that are really for the benefit of low to moderate income families and individuals, primarily individuals and families with children. This is called the Earned Income Tax Credit. The EITC has been the most effective public policy in our nation's history for the last almost 50 years, that every year takes about 8 million American families out of poverty and keeps them out of poverty throughout the next year. Just in Washington, D.C. last year, almost 45,000 Washingtonian families received more than $125 million because of the Earned Income Tax Credit. That is great. And by the way, Denise, the significant majority of beneficiaries of the EITC at the federal level are residing primarily in wards 5, 7, and 8. However, at CAB, we estimate that more than 20,000 EITC eligible families, primarily east of the Anacostia River, are leaving more than $40 million of their own money. We want to emphasize that the EITC is not a public benefit. It is not monies being given away by Uncle Sam. This is your money that Uncle Sam is temporarily holding on to until you take the step of filing a tax form.
That's what I was going to ask you, Joseph. When you say file, that's the step. Is that the only step you have to take? Is just to make sure you file your tax return?
So we do a lot of in-person community outreach, primarily in Ward 7 and 8, Denise. And the way we straight out put it is, hey, if you know that there's an envelope stuffed with $7,400 in cash with your name on it, will you just walk past it or will you actually pick it up? The picking it up here, Denise, is to take the step of filing a federal tax return. And we need to emphasize that filing a tax form ain't the same as paying taxes. In this case, we have a lot of Washingtonian families with children who do not owe any taxes at all because of the income they generated last year, either through W-2 employment or 1099 contractual employment. But Uncle Sam, in this case, might owe them thousands of dollars. And what is great here, Denise, is that the District of Columbia has also taken the very bold step forward to create their own state version of the EITC, the District of Columbia Earning Tax Credit, that is the most robust state version throughout the nation. Right now, if you qualify for the federal EITC, you can also qualify for the DC EITC, and they will provide 70% of what the IRS provides. So the maximum federal EITC is about a little bit over $7,400. On top of that, you can be adding a few more $1,000 for the DC EITC. And that's what CAV is all about right now. Financial empowerment, primarily for the benefit of low to moderate income families, so that we can be bringing those resources. And we know that folks, when they have access to money, they'll pay down debt, they'll buy food for the families, over their heads. So we trust folks with their financial decisions.
So, a lot of people, well, let me ask this question first, and that is, when you talk to folks out there that probably are not filing their taxes, right? They're not filling out a tax form for various reasons. And what are some of those reasons that you've heard?
Primarily is because folks believe that because they did not generate enough income to pay taxes, that they do not need to be filing a tax form. And that's what we always emphasize. Filing a tax form ain't the same as having to pay taxes. So in this case, we do have tens of thousands of Washingtonians who are not filing taxes at the federal level. Thus, they are the ones leaving about $40 million with this one tax credit. And the beauty about this, Denise, is we're encouraging everybody to visit a brand new website CAV launched just a few weeks ago. GetYourEITC.org, GetYourEITC.org. And here you can be getting more information about the federal EITC, the DC EITC, and free tax preparation services available throughout the District of Columbia that are going strong right now through April 15th. In the District of Columbia, you do not have to spend your hard-earned money on filing your taxes. It can be done by IRS certified volunteers that come from faith-based organizations and community-based organizations. We got your back. Please take advantage of the free resources, and we know what to do for you.
And that was the question I was going to ask. I mean, those taxpayers who need assistance in filing those tax forms, but also for those individuals that may want to take it on themselves, is there something that they look for in the form to make sure that they are actually applying for that?
Right. So what we recommend is for anyone who might qualify for either the earned income tax credit, or there's another fantastic tax credit called the child tax credit. Don't worry about it. Just take advantage of one of three available services, either in person throughout the District of Columbia. By the way, we have a great partnership with UPO just 2 blocks away from your office. That's one of the biggest free tax preparation sites in the district. If folks want to do it on their own, they can come to our website and you get rerouted to one of 2 different available platforms. Or if you do not feel comfortable in actually doing it on your own, still take advantage of the free service on our website, and we direct you to another online platform where an IRS certified volunteer will do it for you for free. So again, if you are earning less than $70,000 last year, you need to be taking advantage of the services because you might be leaving thousands of dollars on the table.
And what about folks who actually did not file a tax form last year or previous year, but decided I need to go ahead and get this done this year? Would they still qualify? Are there any penalties that they might have to face? What would you tell them?
So April 15th will be the deadline to file a tax form on time with both the IRS and the District of Columbia's Office of Tax and Revenue, right? That is the on-time deadline for the 2023 taxes. But do not worry. When it comes to taxes, both at the federal and at the DC level, our tax system keeps open for 3 years. So right now, if you have not filed taxes, you can be doing so for 2023, 22, 21, and 20. And the key reason why we're emphasizing 2020, if you have children and have not filed taxes for that year, if you do not owe any taxes, then there are no penalties. Uncle Sam and the DC government are forced to pay you back whatever tax credits you need to be receiving as a refund. And this year is extremely important, Denise, because we still have a lot of Washingtonian families, primarily in Ward 7 and 8, that have not claimed their 2021 child tax credit. And that was the only time in our nation's history where the daughters and sons of an incarcerated American could benefit from this. The daughters and sons of an undocumented district resident could benefit from this. And the bottom line was up to $3,600 per each child ages 0 to up to 6. And for any children ages 6 to 17, $3,000. There was no limit. So again, you are still eligible. And by the way, if anybody did not get their economic support payment, the stimulus check from 2021, you can still do so within the taxes. So again, taxes ain't about just the complexity, but it's about what money you need to claim, because at the end of the day, it's your money and not the government's money.
Joseph, you make me feel like I'm sitting at an ATM machine and dollar bills are just pouring out. I appreciate this information.
And that's what we're all about, Denise. And that's why I was thinking about the Washington Informer for the empowerment, because we need to be bringing this key information to the community. We know that there are too many challenges and obstacles out there, but there's still light at the end of the tunnel.
You mentioned UPO here on Martin Luther King Avenue, which is one of the largest facilities where they are providing free tax assistance. But what about tax preparation assistance, I should say? But are there some other locations throughout the city that you could share?
Yes. So please visit our website, getYourEITC.org. One of the buttons says file your taxes. There are 3 ways. There are several locations throughout the district. Okay. In-person free tax preparation services. You can do it by yourself online for free, or you can upload your documents for free and get an IRS certified volunteer to do it for you. But what matters is to take the step, Denise. If you have earned any kind of income, there's no minimum amount. If you are a returning citizen who only worked for 1 week in 2023, if you're a single mom who worked for a couple of months, it doesn't matter the amount of income generated. It doesn't matter the amount of time worked. If you worked at all in 2023, you need to be looking at the federal earned income tax credit and the DC earned income tax credit as well.
And is there any age restriction on this?
Unfortunately, at the federal level, there is a restriction that it's only between the ages of 25 to 60. But right now, there is legislation that has always received bipartisan support. The District of Columbia is also looking to lower the age requirement. But this, at the end of the day, is something that does provide money for those who work, right? So it's skin in the game. And then those who take the proactive step of filing a tax form. So we need to be overcoming that hurdle, folks, not filing a tax form.
All right. Well, Joseph, thank you so very much for being with us today and sponsoring this segment and having this very valuable conversation. I appreciate you being with us.
Thank you, Denise. We appreciate you as well.
All righty. Have a good one.
Take care. Thank you.
Again, that segment was brought to you or sponsored by Capital Area Asset Builders, where the mission is investing in people and strengthening communities. So now I look forward to talking to our next guest, and that is none other than Solomon Green, the Assistant Deputy Secretary for Policy Development and Research at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Solomon, are you there? There you are.
Am indeed. And thank you so much for having me, Denise.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So if people go and get that earned income tax credit and that child tax credit, they might be able to create a way to get a down payment on a house.
And I actually, as a DC resident, I just want to say I appreciate Joseph's presentation as much as the rest of your viewers. I learned and I hope we can share some of the good work we're doing at HUD as well. And we're so grateful to have you have this opportunity to talk to you and learn from your viewers.
Well, the one thing I want to say, I mean, I was, we're a news organization. So I had with great interest listening to President Biden's speech this week in Nebraska. where he outlined his plan to expand affordable housing and end discrimination. And in that speech, he also emphasized the need to increase housing supply, again, address discrimination in home valuations and reduce rents. And he talked about his plan also to create 2 million affordable homes and address homelessness, a plan that he says will reduce the federal debt, that it's not going to cost us anymore. Your organization, I mean, the Department of HUD, is where all these programs rest. You all will have to execute the president's plan. I'm assuming, is that correct?
Well, it's a whole of government approach, and the president often talks about that. It is at the core of HUD's mission to provide safe, quality, and affordable homes for all. That is our mission. So everything you heard in the president's speech on Tuesday, which I was just as excited as you were to hear as a longtime advocate and researcher focused on housing issues. It was so great to hear the president deliver an entire speech dedicated to the administration's actions to address what we all know is a growing affordable housing crisis. But I do want to emphasize, you asked, is it all going to land on HUD's shoulders? We will certainly be doing our part, but I want to emphasize that this administration really does think of housing as a whole of government approach. So things like our low-income housing tax credit that are administered by the Treasury Department, housing for veterans at Veterans Affairs, rural housing that's administered by our colleagues at U.S. Department of Agriculture. So while we're ready, we're stepping up to do the hard work. We're going to do it in coordination with our federal partners.
Well, the one thing that's good to know, I mean, we were all sort of taken aback when we heard that HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge is resigning. But, you know, it's not the person, it's the programs, it's the institutional programs that have been set up at HUD that you all will have to continue to carry through. And I just, you know, when we talk about these programs, and you mentioned a couple, but what do people really know about how to find out about HUD's programs, and where do they kind of trickle down to on the local level?
Yeah, great. Well, all of our work trickles down to the local level. And that's something I like to remind people, that HUD itself doesn't build housing or provide housing. HUD itself does not strengthen communities through federal grants. We do that through our local partners. So I'll say a little bit more about how that works, but you can think of three main ways on the housing side that HUD can be supportive. So first, we help local communities build and preserve affordable housing. And that is such an important issue. We know right now we don't have enough housing generally, and we certainly don't have enough housing that's affordable to low-income folks. So just since 2021, HUD helped local communities build or repair more than 500,000 units of affordable housing. The second big way we can help is through our rental assistance program. Often the main one that most people are familiar with is our housing voucher program. And that gives people the ability to find housing in the private market in neighborhoods of their choice, and housing units that meet their and their family's needs. And through the voucher program, we serve over 2.5 million Americans. And we're really proud to say that over the past 3 years, HUD has issued more new vouchers than at any 3-year period over the past 2 decades. So we're doing what we can, as long as we have congressional support, because it all takes a budget to do that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And so we're expanding the voucher program. And then the third big area is homeownership. You mentioned it. You and your viewers, I'm sure, are aware of FHA loans. Those are administered by the Federal Housing Administration, which is a part of HUD. And they allow often first-time home buyers to access homeownership with lower down payments and competitive rates. And the first-time home buyer rate in our FHA program is also higher than it's ever been in 20 years. So we're doing what we can with the resources we have, but it always involves those local partners.
You know, once upon a time, there was some pretty extraordinary news about the backlog in vouchers. You know, people have been waiting 2, 3, 5, 10 years to find places to live. What does that look like now?
Unfortunately, we still have that backlog. I don't know the latest numbers, but in my research career, and it's unfortunately been pretty stable over time. It's about 1 in 4 households that qualify for vouchers receive them. Sometimes it edges up to closer to one in 5. So we know there is a shortage of housing vouchers, and we at HUD would like vouchers to be available to everyone and make sure that those precious federal dollars are used to be able to make sure more people can access safe and affordable housing. So what we're doing, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to expand the voucher program, and we've had support from Congress in recent years to do that. But we're also trying to make those vouchers easier to use so people can use them more quickly. When people exit the voucher program, that those vouchers get reused as quickly as possible. So we would like to see more vouchers, but we also want to make sure that the vouchers that we have are used to the greatest effect, serving the people who are fortunate enough in that lottery system to receive them. We also know, I'm a researcher, we know that vouchers can have such a transformative, make such a big difference in people's lives. This was my area, one of my areas of research is looking at what impact the voucher program has. We know it can help prevent homelessness. It can improve outcomes for children, and how important it is to have safe, stable, and affordable housing in a community that supports you and your family's needs. And so at HUD, we look at that whole picture.
Has anything changed with regards to the qualifications for those that might need to apply for a voucher?
Some of the qualifications are done by individual housing authorities.
Okay.
Have been doing everything we can at HUD to make it easier to qualify for a voucher. And so that's been a big push of ours. We also have been educating landlords in the voucher program about the strengths of the program. That's a big push that we've been doing, because those vouchers are only as good as the landlords that are willing to accept them. And so one of the things we're constantly emphasizing is voucher holders are good tenants, and the voucher program provides a stable source of income for landlords as well. So we really, and I know our local housing authority partners are working with us on that effort. But it takes a whole system. We need to applicants, but we also need to be bringing more landlords forward.
Right. That's the other issue. I think I know in the district, people have attitudes about folks, certain people, moving or living in neighborhoods, and whether, I won't say what what we often hear, that whole NIMBY attitude about where the housing should be provided for folks. But it looks like we're expanding that now and getting people into neighborhoods where they once vouchers were not once accepted. And I think that's an improvement on the program. Want to also ask you about your innovative housing showcase. Tell me what that's about.
I can't wait to tell you about the showcase. We have 2 big announcements that have been a big part of my life over the past week, and you mentioned both of them actually. So many communities across the country, so I'll stick with the vouchers for just a second because we have a new resource at HUD I want to make sure you're aware of. Many communities across the country, right here in the district, have adopted laws that protect voucher holders from discrimination. So we launched a new website, the Source of Income Discrimination resource page, that shows where the communities across the country that have those protections, what they look like, and how voucher holders and public housing authorities can learn more about how to make the most of those protections. So hopefully find a way, drop it in the chat to share that new resource page. But we just launched it this week, so we're very excited about that. Switching gears to the other big announcement we made this week was we announced the dates for our Innovative Housing Showcase that you mentioned. It'll be this year on June 7th and June 9th. And what we do is we bring innovators, particularly in new building technologies and construction technologies and energy efficiency, to show off the best new ideas in the housing sector right here in the nation's capital. And we do that by taking over the mall. It's HUD's premier public event. And we bring those exhibitions to the National Mall. What's so exciting about this is you can touch and feel the innovation. You can enter homes that were built using 3D printers or offsite construction. You can check out the latest technology in energy efficiency and sustainable materials. So it's just such an exciting opportunity for DC residents to learn more about how the role innovation plays in meeting our mission and meeting our nation's housing needs.
I'm curious to find out, I mean, when we talk about innovation, and I know there's a focus on environmental aspects of building, but also the other would be aging, you know, or I'm saying the other. Now, that's what I'm asking you, Solomon. What are some of the areas that housing or builders have really looked at that address today and the future needs of homeowners?
Such a great question. And we're just getting started this year recruiting exhibitors. So I'll say a little bit about what we learned last year. But on that point, I just want to make sure people know it's open to the public to submit ideas to showcase. And we're currently seeking exhibitors. And one of the things we're emphasizing this year, as we did last year, is accessible housing as well as accessibility retrofits. And so there were so many exciting exhibits last year that featured accessibility, including one of the exhibitions, one of the innovators was showing how something called accessory dwelling units, which you may be familiar with, big deal here in DC. Those, building that second unit on your property, or sometimes called in-law units inside your existing property, but adding additional units to an existing property and how that can be done in a really accessible way. And what that means is not just seniors, but also veterans, other people with disabilities can have universal access to the new housing that's being provided. And those ADUs could be such an important resource for caregivers as well, if for people who are aging in place. So we're really excited about exploring that more this year. And if people have ideas, now is the time to send them to us. Now, our exhibits have to be new technologies that you can actually demonstrate or interact with or enter. But we know a lot of those innovators are right here in the DMV, and we would encourage them to submit to us over the next couple of weeks.
Wonderful. It sounds exciting. I haven't been, so I'm definitely going to come down in June. I can't wait. Give me that date again.
June 7th through 9th, or Friday through Sunday.
Okay.
Fall, we'll have some public programming where we're going to bring in some national experts from across the country, and actually this year from across the globe, to talk about how innovation can address our nation's housing supply issues. So we've got the exhibit on the mall. We'll also have some public programming. We'd love to have you join for both, as well as your viewers and your readers. And we look forward to coming back and talking to you more as the date gets closer, so we can tease out what some of those exciting programs and exhibitions might look like.
Wonderful. And next time you come back, Solomon, I want to talk a little bit more as a mother of two millennials, right? Not Gen Zers, so they're getting old now, right? But just the whole accessibility or affordability of homeowners for young people who are really trying to get into home ownership, and what programs HUD might have available to them. We'll hold that for our next conversation, but I look forward to it.
I welcome it. Thank you so much, Denise.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day. And thanks for the invitation. We'll see you on June.
Enjoy those cherry blossoms.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So then that was great. I mean, we can't talk enough about home ownership. And of course, there's a bit of a crisis out there. And it sounds like, I know the secretary who's leaving, and hopefully the one that replaces her will come in with the same type of momentum and expectation that the barriers to homeownership will be removed. And certainly we want to keep that on the forefront of what we talk about here at Let's Talk. These next two segments are part of our continued celebration of Women's History Month. Tiffany Crow and Aisha Bond are both women who lead. And so it's my honor to bring on Tiffany Crow, the director of the DC Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. Tiffany, welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So I want to remind folks that, it was in 2022 that the DC Council voted to split DCRA, Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, into these two new agencies. And so your department, the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection, is one, and I guess the other is the DC Department of Buildings. And last November, the council approved you to lead DLCP. And so congratulations.
Thank you.
And are you prepared for this work ahead?
I am prepared. Thank you for the question. And I think when I accepted Mayor Bowser's nomination for this role, I had a lot of things that I wanted to do for the agency, focus on the team, focus on sort of building the infrastructure of the agency since it was a new agency. So I'm definitely prepared, really excited about the work ahead.
Well, since it's Women's History Month, I don't want to just talk about the work before we get into talking about who Tiffany Crow is and your path to this position and your path into government service. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so my path into public sector was pretty short. I started as a teacher. I did a program called Teach for America in Houston. And outside of that Teach for America experience in Houston, my entire work experience has been in the District of Columbia, working at different organizations and agencies. So part of that has been, I have a law degree. I worked during the day. I went to law school at night so that I could continue doing the work that I was doing. And part of my passion has been making sure that government operates efficiently for the people that it's supposed to serve, both citizens and businesses.
Wonderful. Are you from DC or where's home for you?
I am not. I'm originally from Indiana. I've been in DC now about 18 years. My parents like to say that I've been here longer than I was there. So, but my husband is from this area and I have 2 children that I'm raising here. So.
Wonderful. Fantastic. And so this agency, this new agency now has, I guess, new responsibilities. Tell us about what the Office of Licensing, oh, did I get it wrong? Licensing and Consumer Protection. We know a little bit about consumer protection, but still, I mean, tell us what your responsibilities include.
So one thing that I've been doing is I say the name over and over, like Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. I used to get so hung up on.
I thought it was just me. I feel better now.
I know people were like, "Oh, don't you run that agency?" And I'm like, "Yes, but it doesn't quite roll off the tongue yet." So
right.
DLCP, or the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection, we have a dual mission. We are here to serve consumers, and we are also here to serve businesses. I like to say that our agency has a core economic development mission. Every business in the District of Columbia has to touch our agency, whether they need a basic business license or do corporate filing. If you are someone with an occupational or professional license, you're an engineer, a real estate agent, an architect, you come through our agency. And so that is a responsibility that we take very seriously, from sort of the way that we serve those customers who are the engine of the district, who keep us in like restaurants and automobile shops and coffee shops and things like that. We need to make sure those customers are well taken care of. And then the flip side of that, anything that we license, we also regulate. So this is where the consumer protection mission comes in. If you're a consumer and you believe that a business is participating in unfair, deceptive trade practices or operating without a license or outside the scope of your license, we are the agency that you come to get support.
You know, for the Washington Informer will be 60 years old this year.
Congratulations.
And thank you. But at any rate, and I think, this is really more of a question, for businesses that have, I don't know if they've been around as long as us or longer, or even new businesses, and we're glad you're here, just getting to know sort of the new rules of the game, right? There were certain things that we didn't have to do 20, 30, 40 years ago that now, something comes up and you realize, oh, I didn't know I had to do that.
That's
so how are you, in addition to being welcome on Let's Talk to share this information, how do businesses know how to keep up with the rules? of making sure that they're following those rules for consumer protection, as well as continuing to keep their licenses up to date?
So this is a great question. One of the first things that I did when appointed was start to talk to the business community. So I've visited the Chamber of Commerce. I've met with the managers of the area business improvement districts, the main streets, met with business owners themselves, looked at some of the comments. So I follow all of those Nextdoor apps, all of the things where people provide feedback to see sort of where we were falling short. And I heard a lot of that, right? Like we weren't communicating effectively what people needed to do. And we were making it more complicated to do business in the district. So one of our key focuses right now is to make sure that, one, it's easier to do business in the District of Columbia, and where you do have a responsibility, we're communicating that clearly. So just yesterday, for instance, we had a session that we hosted with DSLBD about corporate filing, and more than 200 people showed up, even though we just had a couple of days of advertising for that, and 200 businesses showed up to get support on making sure that they understood what was required for corporate filings. So we're going to be doing more of that. Our communications team has been working to make sure that we're present on social media, that we have events, that I am actually out in the public, so that as we build this agency and support consumers and businesses, we understand really what the needs are and are communicating outward. So you can go to our website, dlcp.dc.gov. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and we are using all channels to communicate, as well as improving the way that we push information digitally.
So every new business that comes into the District of Columbia has to come through your doors. Is that correct?
They do. And there are maybe some like very narrow exceptions. And depending on the size of the business, the scope, the type of business, the things that you have to do to open vary, right? If you are a sole proprietorship with no employees, obviously, depending on the type of business that it is, the barriers to entry are a little bit different. But the goal is to reduce risk to business owners and consumers in the district.
I know that it's not your job necessarily to go out and to find new businesses to come into the district. There's your chambers and what have you that I think help in that recruitment of people to wanting to do business in the district. Yours is to make it easy for them to do business. But have you noticed an uptick, or what are the numbers looking like for new businesses incorporating in the District of Columbia?
Well, so we think of it as part of our responsibility. One thing that we hear a lot is it's easier to do business in, I don't know, Charlotte or wherever, like name any other major city. And, we do research to see if that's true or not. In some cases it is, and in some places it isn't. And then we also, if there's a business that has succeeded elsewhere and it's similar to our market, we think of ourselves also as lead generators. So where there's a business that could do well here, we participate in those conversations to the extent that we can. And so that piece we do consider part of our mission. Mm-hmm. But the second half of your question, can you repeat that?
Yeah, just have you noticed, because we're all talking about, the district's economy and.
Oh, yes. So
this is coming to the District of Columbia, are we growing, or what do you see?
So this is great news, actually. So if we look at our peak, so when we look at data for the past 5 to 6 years, 2018 and the first half of 2019, we saw a peak of about 60 to 65,000 businesses that had active business licenses in the district. So we kind of use that as our barometer internally. We've been using that to say, like, are we nearing our peak status for business ownership? And so we're seeing, looking at the quarters where I've been the director and we're tracking this, we're seeing that we are almost at those 2018 levels for new businesses as well as renewals. And so we are tracking that more frequently, I think, than has been done in the past. So month to month, sector by sector, business type, we take a look at that. So for every article you see about a business closing, 2 or 3 restaurants are opening in the district. And so our goal is to make sure that those new businesses are supported, that it's easy to stay in business in the district, and that we understand sort of what is the secret to longevity in business in the district for these new businesses that are opening.
Well, it sounds like you really got a program going that you're doing a lot more to support local businesses, which is key. Because once it's not hard, it's hard to start a business. It's even harder to stay in business, but especially if you don't have advocates to help you to do that. And I'm sure when I talk to the folks after you with the Greater Washington Black Chamber of Commerce, I mean, I know that they have worked with you and understand what the needs are and are partners in making sure that DC is a great place to do business. Any tip you want to leave us before we say goodbye that you think businesses need to know, or how to reach you in case, well, I think we put information up about how to reach out to DLCP, but
Great
anything you
job.
want to, yeah, thank you.
So we take feedback. So we have on our website ways to provide feedback to the agency for anyone who is having an issue, sort of getting their license, understanding the process, needing support. We take feedback on the way that they are being supported currently, as well as our tools, because we're in the process of revamping some of those, and we want to make sure that we're hitting the right marks. So visit our website. You can send a message through our customer response system, and we will be responsive. If you see that we're at an event, please come up and ask us questions and give us feedback. We're an open door.
And those events also are listed on your website?
Yes. So the events are mostly on our socials, but we are working to make sure that all events where we are in the public are also scrolling on our webpage.
Wonderful. Tiffany, thank you so very much for being with us today. And I wish you the best of luck, because if you're successful, that means we're all successful. So glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to you soon. So now we're going to move to another woman who is really helping as well with local businesses. That's Aisha Bond Esquire. She's the president and CEO of the Greater Washington Black Chamber of Commerce. Aisha, welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you for having me, Denise. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So before we get into a lot of details, I'm going to start with say the meat here. The chamber's having an open house next week. So let's talk about that really quickly so that folks will know, that you're welcoming new members and opportunity to learn more about the chamber. Let's share that.
Absolutely. And a great transition, because Director Crow and her team will be there sharing a lot of information about licensing, as she highlighted. We do have an open house this upcoming Tuesday, March 26th. It is a long day full of information, education, and resources that we're bringing to our membership and non-members as well. It's open to all, so it's important to indicate. It takes place at the Thurgood Marshall Center, where we are housed, and we basically open the first floor and we just let the floodgates in. All kinds of people will be present. DSLBD will be our partners this particular open house on Tuesday. They'll be providing information about gaming for those who are interested in getting involved in some of the new gaming licensing concerns and issues. They'll be talking about some of their grants and accelerator programs. We have, we start the day with a coffee conversation, which we are featuring our legislative series right now. So Councilwoman Brooke Pinto will be there at 9:30 for coffee and conversation with all who want to join us and discuss things like the recent crime bill and other factors. We also have a lunch marketplace where many agencies and organizations who support business development and growth, particularly Black business development and growth, will be there providing information, talking to people one-on-one. We have technical assistance going on all day with SBA, with SBDC, and other partners. So there are 30-minute slots available for prioritizing that for our membership. But those are available as well. And then we conclude the day with a reception with, this time our guest of honor is Deputy Director of DSLBD, Director Rosemary Suggs Evans. So that reception starts at 4 p.m., goes till 6. So whatever time of day you are free, if you are a business owner or entrepreneur, there is something going on at the open house for you at that time to really benefit from. So we really hope to see you there. And of course, I forgot to note that the DLCP segment will be at 3 p.m. talking about licensing as well.
Oh, that's all fantastic, Aisha. Now we got to tell them where to come.
Thurgood Marshall Center, the first floor is all RC. Come on in and you can't miss it. That's at 12th and T, 1816 12th Street to be specific. But the Thurgood Marshall Center, which it's an old historic building here in DC, which we're proud to be tenants of, is where we host all of our open houses.
So that's the headquarters of the Greater Washington Black Chamber as
Indeed,
well, right?
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that it's really nice to have that an institution like Thurgood Marshall that has all of these Black organizations that
That's right.
nonprofits that are doing well. So I'm glad that to see you all there. The chamber was started, the Greater Washington Black Chamber of Commerce was started in 2017. And can you maybe share with us why? Because we have the of course, the DC Chamber and other organizations throughout the city that address business associations. But why was there a need to start a black chamber?
Well, I would highlight that specifically, while we do see that the chamber, the DC Chamber at large, and other orgs really support business development, and DC is a unique city where we do have and always have had a very robust Black business community. So in many ways, the city is always attentive to that. But there was simply the recognition that there was need for a specific advocacy vehicle. We needed a specific organization that really was focused solely and singularly on the success of Black business owners. And entirely focused to advocating and educating folks around the needs of the Black business community so that we could continue to grow and thrive. One of the things that I like to highlight when I'm communicating with people about the Chamber's initiatives is that, particularly in a town, again, like DC, there's no challenge in getting folks to engage entrepreneurship and enterprise. We have one of the largest percentages of Black businesses of any city in the country. But it's staying in business. And I believe Director Crow also noted that as well. It's really significant to make sure that these businesses that are opening are not just opening at great rates, but that they are growing and that they are staying open. So the Chamber is very focused specifically on that agenda. And I think that's unique to all of the other organizations that support economic development in this region. And so I'm very pleased that the founding board members had the foresight to take the time and have the perseverance to initiate this chamber and to stay with it through COVID to make sure that we really got the legs that it deserves, and we're here to make sure that it's a lasting chamber.
Is there something you can share with us, Aisha, other than what Director Crow talked about, which were some of the licensing challenges that all businesses were facing, whether they were Black or otherwise? But what are some of or one or two of the unique challenges that the chamber has tackled on behalf of Black-owned businesses in the district?
Well, the most obvious is simply the access to capital. I mean, we continue to remain a demographic that receives a disproportionate amount of access to capital, or receives a disproportionate amount of capital for our businesses. I mean, we're something like 7% of the business community here, which is higher than on average national average, which is probably about 3% Black businesses in most places. So again, we're robust, but the access to capital and our ability to be prepared for capital opportunities really continues to be a challenge. And so it's a concern that we highlight often. And it's always an issue that we're focused on bringing more education, access, connection, and resource around. So much of the networking that we do is making sure that we're demystifying that process for our members. Much of that networking is about making sure that we are creating connections so that people have real relationships with people at banks and other funding institutions, CDFIs, et cetera. And also making sure that we are focused on bringing education that lets our businesses prepare for growth opportunities, because being aware of a growth opportunity and maybe sometimes even being awarded a growth opportunity is very different than actually being prepared for that actual opportunity when it comes. And it's important that while these businesses are opening, that again, they stay open.
One of the things that impacts businesses also is policy, public policy.
Indeed.
And so, are there any champions that we can point to? I don't know if you can do this, but point to on the council or in the city that we can say, hey, they're looking out for us.
Listen, the council is very supportive of Black businesses in many ways, but I would be remiss if I didn't highlight Councilman Kenny McDuffie. I mean, he has been really instrumental in a lot of different ways, including, just ensuring that there's support for the chamber, for GWBCC or Black Chamber. and really focusing on Black business and Black business growth here in the Washingtonian. I'm a native Washingtonian, of course, so is he. And so those, and you, of course, people who grew up here and understand the legacy of Black business in this city, we take it very seriously and we're very committed and dedicated. So, if there's anybody I had to just highlight, certainly he would be one. But I want to recognize that there are many people in the city who really are committed and focused on making sure that we continue to be a leader in this space and excel in Black entrepreneurship.
And are there any legislative issues right now that the chamber is championing that you have before the council that you've heard Black businesses saying? You mentioned access to capital, but is there anything else?
Well, there are quite a few things that we are passionate about and that we have been both tracking and making sure that our community is aware of and aware of the significance to their business bottom line. So sometimes they're not as obvious, right? Sometimes they're tax concerns and legislations that we're focused on. A lot of times, recently with restaurants, we were concerned about minimum wage and tip scales and things like that. But also we're focused on the new crime bill that just came out. Crime is impacting retail tremendously in restaurants, et cetera. I mean, we are really struggling, and Black businesses are, again, disproportionately impacted because we tend not to have that access to capital. And so we don't have the either cushion or the resources to bounce back once we take a particular hit, due to a shoplift or something that might seem, relatively minor, maybe to a listening audience, is really major to a Black business. Also, things like childcare. These are legislative issues that we care a lot about, particularly when it comes to women-owned businesses, because we cannot go to work and we cannot do our best in our professional context and in our business community if we don't have childcare. So we really try to make sure that holistically we are looking at all of the legislation and making sure we're bringing the information to our businesses so that they understand where to be energized and motivated in terms of showing up and advocating for themselves. And of course, we're always advocating for them.
So I want you to now put on your marketing recruitment hat and tell people, why should they become a member of the Greater Washington Black Chamber of Commerce, and what do they need to do to become a member?
Well, it's twofold. In order to become a member, you simply have to go on the website, gwbcc.org, and click that Join Today button and just follow those prompts and join the membership. But so that's relatively easy, and we hope that it's a very easy process for you. The reason why you should become a member if you're a Black business owner in DC, like I said, is twofold. One, we really have excellent networking and resource building opportunities. People who come to our events are always toting and highlighting and sharing with me that they genuinely walk away with real relationships, right? So it's not just being in the room where superstars are in the room and you get to say you were there. It's really sitting down and having those conversations. There's real intentionality around people who are part of this community, and there's nothing more profound than a community that is intentional. You seem to get more out of it. People are there for the same reasons. And so when you join our community, you will recognize as well that it's an accelerator for your business. You are going to both meet people, be around people, and able to generate really progressive ideas around business and business culture. So, we're constantly making sure that we're connecting you directly with resources. So again, banking, financial institutions, other organizations and resources, but also making sure that we, are counseling resource in many ways with our technical assistance. If you don't know who to call and you're intimidated by the process, whatever that process might be, it's really great to have a resource that's just dedicated to making sure that you get where you need to be. So there's a big part of that happens as well. But I'd be remiss if I didn't also share the twofold piece of it, is that it's really because we need you. We need to know what's going on in your business. And we are no good as an advocacy tool if we don't know what is challenging you and any other varied business, right? So every industry, we need to have scope. We need to know which industries are suffering or excelling and why, where we need to put our focus and our attention. And so I say there's power in numbers. Joining the chamber is a gesture. It's a gesture that not only do you care about your business, but you care about the community of Black businesses that exist and that should continue to exist. So it really is a conscious choice, but it's also a really powerful choice for you individually as a business owner.
Well, we've gone over, but that's okay. I wanted to also, that as part of your commercial here, you're coming soon. So we talked about the open house. What else is coming up that folks need to know about?
We've got Money Smart Mondays, where we're focused solely on money conversations. Usually those are a series of workshops where you're getting educational content around preparedness. Preparedness is a big part of our process, making sure that our businesses are prepared for those opportunities before we put them before lenders, et cetera. So we have a series of those going on. We, of course, have some fun stuff like our Juneteenth Gala, where we award many Black businesses in the city or people who are advocates for Black businesses alongside of us. And we have a few other expos and trade shows that are coming down the line. But much like noted before, if you stay connected with us on social, we are always populating and informing our audience about the things that are happening. So Instagram is really a great place to real time just see all kinds of things that are happening for us, and staying connected with our website, of course.
Well, I wanted to, since it's Women's History Month, I did want to get a chance to ask you about your journey, Aisha. I mean, the chamber's only 7 years old. I think you've been there how long?
2 years, I believe. 2 years.
2 years. I mean, you sound like the encyclopedia on the Black Chamber. So I know that it's running through your blood. But how did you get there? I mean, what was your journey?
I'm happy to say I really backdoored into it. I am an attorney by trade, and so I studied probate contracts and things like that. Dispute resolution was of my interest. But early on in my professional career, I stopped to have children, and I fell in love with my second hat, which was baking, and I'm a culinary student, and I started a baking business. And my baking business really connected me with my community, which at the time was Bloomingdale in DC, Northwest. And I started providing my baked goods at the farmers markets. And then I grew to U Street and then H Street and all the different farmers markets. And I found myself with a business sort of by accident, but also found myself on boards volunteering for small business development, Black business development, et cetera, as a business owner. And eventually, got off the board side and went over to the actual, working side for these organizations. And I've been there ever since. And so I've stayed with the nonprofit community and with the small business development community in all facets of my professional development thus far. So it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, well, it's quite a journey. I think people need to know that, because you never know, where you're going or how you're going to get there or anything. And so, you end up in places and spaces. And even when you do, you ask yourself, how did I get here?
Exactly. Exactly. The best thing you could do is make a plan.
Right.
And then everything else will happen except that plan. But I'm pleased to be here and pleased to represent. And it's a pleasure to be on the show today. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. And I have to, full disclosure, I have to let folks know that the Washington Informer is also a member of the chamber. Full disclosure, Denise is also a member of the board.
Right.
And full disclosure, that we also have a partnership with the chamber. So we hope to be highlighting some of those businesses over the year and making sure that the information that you conveyed is not only on your website, but people, when you open up the paper, can find information that will lead them to the chamber. So I really honor that relationship, and look forward to having you all on more often. You have an interesting list of who's who on your who are members from
right.
Industrial Bank and what is it? Antoine's
exactly Enlightened. Yep, we've got everything from lobbyists to people in public health, yourself, journalism, et cetera. So it's really a varied and really significant board. I'm very proud to serve.
Yeah, I was about to step into some dangerous waters, because when we start mentioning people, you didn't mention me.
But it's
I thought I'd rescue from that and say, okay, just as my daddy used to say, lottie dottie, and everybody should be a member of the greater.
That is true. That is very true. Yeah.
So thank you so much for being with us, Aisha, and look forward to having you back. And hopefully we'll see you at that open house next Tuesday.
Please come out, folks. Thanks. We'd love to see you.
Okay. All righty. Thank you much. Have a great
Take care, Denise.
You
Bye-bye.
too. So I want to thank you for watching Let's Talk today, and a special thank you to Joseph Lightman, Santa Cruz of CAB, and to Solomon Green of HUD, and Tiffany Crow with the LCP, and Aisha Bond of the Greater Washington Black Chamber of Commerce. Remember, change begins with awareness and dialogue. So let's continue to spark conversations, break barriers, and build a more inclusive future. Tune in next week for more inspiring discussions and impactful stories. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes. Have a great weekend.